Greetings everyone, Brainrot Metalhead here, and it's time for the first video on my channel, which is going to be a track tier list / review of the brand new Nile album, The Underworld Awaits Us All. So skibbity bop, let's find out if the album's on top or if it's a flop. And I'm gonna preface this by saying that until this album came out, I had never actually listened to Nile. I'd always known about them, I'd always heard about them, I'd always confused them with rivers of Nile, Nihil, however you pronounce it. Because like Nile's a river, and Nile sounds like Nile, so yeah. But I went back, listened to their first two albums. Debut, really good, a lot of bangers on it. Follow-up, Black Seeds of Vengeance, also pretty good, but they started doing some longer songs that are kind of debatable. But yeah, I'm coming into this one with a pretty fresh perspective, and it's always important to have fresh perspectives. Even brain-rotted ones, maybe. But without any further yapping, let's get started. First track, Stele of Vultures, and this is probably the highest energy song on the album, and it is a banger. It's got some killer riffs, it justifies its over 6-minute runtime, and it has probably the best vocal performance on the album in my opinion. Carl sounds genuinely rabid on this thing. So yeah, this track is pretty skibbity, probably my favorite song on the album, to be honest. Moving on, we got Chapter for not being hung upside down on a stake in the underworld and made to eat feces by the 4 apes. And I am convinced that the only reason this song was a single is because of that title, because that title is the most memorable thing about the song. I mean, it's got some riffs. The lyrics, you know, they're interesting, but for the most part, it's kind of just in one ear, out the other. It's not bad. There's nothing special about it either, so it's kind of in the middle, so mid. Song's mid. And after that, we got To Strike with Secret Fang, which is a short, raging banger under 2 minutes that comes in, bashes your skull, and gets out with zero aimless flabbing around on the fretboard. There's this one section in the second half that sounds almost black metal-y, which is pretty distinct compared to the rest of the album, so yeah, that section's cool. Overall song has zero filler, does what it has to. It's a good song, it's good, it's going to good tier. And then we got Nakada 2, Enter the Golden Age, or as I like to call it, Nasdaq. Because when I first read the song title, I read it as Nasdaq, because apparently I'm a business-minded person. But this song is pretty good. It's got some solid riffs, especially in the last third of the song. And there's this one really thrashy riff that comes in at the very end, and it makes me mad because they only play it for like 4 seconds, and it's probably my favorite riff on the album overall. It just goes hard. But overall, good song, going to good tier. Afterwards, we got the obligatory interlude track, the Pentagrammathion of Nephrim-Ka, which there isn't much to say about it. You know, it's an interlude. It's a little over a minute. It exists. Let's put it that way. It exists. There's nothing special about it. There's nothing bad about it. So it's going to mid. After that, we got the next 2 songs, Overlords of the Black Earth and Under the Curse of the One God. And I am putting these together because they are pretty much interchangeable to me. There's nothing that sticks out about either one, either instrumentally or vocally or anything. The only difference is that Under the Curse of the One God has this ambient, I guess, sounding Egyptian outro that is kind of tacked on at the end, and it literally sounds tacked on, like the main song ends and there's this 2-second pause of silence before the outro starts. It's like the band suddenly remembered, oh hey, we have a theme and we need to make Egyptian sounding stuff and stick it somewhere, and they just decided to stick it at the end of this song. So both these songs, very mid, not songs that I would really come back to ever, I think, so yeah. Things fortunately improve after that with the next track, Doctrine of Last Things, where they slow things down in the first and last third with this nasty, suffocating riff. And this song also has, I think, the best usage of the higher pitched choir, I guess, vocals that they've been doing on this album. Like at the end of the song when they're repeating the line, "The dead do not return," those higher pitched vocals work really well. So this song's pretty good. It's going to good. It's going to good tier. After that, we got the 7-minute long True Gods of the Desert, which also slows things down with some chunkier riffs. But unfortunately, the song feels like 4 minutes of ideas stretched out into 7, and the second half of the song really starts to drag and get kind of boring. So for that reason, song is going to mid. We then have the title track, The Underworld Awaits Us All, which fortunately does not suffer from the same issues as the previous track despite actually being longer at 8.5 minutes. The song has a really nice progression with different phases and high quality riffs throughout the entire thing, so it just remains interesting for its entire runtime, which is a lot more than can be said for the previous song. So for that reason, this song is going to very good. It is one of the better tracks on the album, so very good. And finally, we have the final song on the album, Lament for the Destruction of Time, which is actually an instrumental track and a very good instrumental track. This song has probably the most Egyptian sounding guitar work on the album, which takes the form of these melodic leads that are layered over some slow, stomping riffs that just quake the earth. And it all comes together really well for this song. The last quarter of the song in particular has this one really slow, chunky, chugging riff that comes in while the leads continue doing their thing on top of it, and it is just nasty. The entire song just sounds like a giant just stomping through the desert, and it works really well. It is a fantastic closing to the album, and honestly, the song is skibbity. The song is skibbity. Great closing track. So now that the tier list is done, you can see that the album is kind of a mixed bag in my opinion, with some highlights and some mid. But one thing I want to talk about in particular in regards to the album as a whole is the production, which is good. The production is good, and that is kind of a problem in my opinion, especially for a band like Nile with the themes that they have and whatnot. The production, I think, is too modern. It doesn't really suit their style. It sounds like the kind of production you would hear like on any other standard tech death band or something. Like if you look at their debut, it had a much rawer, rough around the edges kind of style, which I think actually helps Nile kind of advance their themes of their music. And because of that, I think this more modern, clean, good style of production just sounds kind of lifeless and without character in comparison to that. And in regards to the themes of the band and the album, I think that apart from the lyrical content, the album overall didn't really do that great of a job of advancing those themes. Like there are riffs and melodies and things here and there that do sound Egyptian / Middle Eastern and whatnot, but I feel like if you look at a band like Melakesh, you can take a random song from a random Melakesh album and it does a significantly better job at sounding Middle Eastern and being consistent with the band's theme. So I was a little bit disappointed in that regard, but the band definitely put in a solid effort and they definitely know how to play their instruments. Overall, I am feeling a 3 out of 6 on this album. So skibbity bop, until the next video, we'll hop.